Hello, welcome to this lesson about order of operations. Let's start by defining order of operations. Order of operations is simplifying a numerical expression using PEMDAS. You may have seen this before. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. What this stands for is first simplifying parentheses, then exponents, followed by multiplication and division, and finally addition and subtraction. That's your order of operations. Another thing I'd like to talk about is absolute value, because we'll be simplifying some expressions that involve absolute value. Absolute value is a number's distance from zero. And it is always positive. We think about distance as being positive because, for example, if I live 2 miles east of school and you live 3 miles west of school, even though we're in opposite directions, neither one of us would say we live negative miles from school. We would always say a positive distance, a positive number of miles. So let's just try some simple examples of simplifying expressions that involve absolute value. First, let's look at number 1. The absolute value of negative 13. We need to consider the distance of negative 13 from 0, and that would be 13 units. You'll notice that the absolute value of this negative number is positive. Now if we look at number 2, the absolute value of 21. The distance of 21 from 0 on a number line is 21 units. Again, that distance is positive. So regardless of whether the number in the absolute value bars is a positive or negative number, here's a negative, here's a positive, you'll see that both answers are positive. This is what we mean when we say the absolute value is always positive. Let's look at number 3. This has an expression that we need to simplify. We're going to do our absolute value bars first. We're going to treat those almost like parentheses. We need to simplify each of those first. So the absolute value of negative 3 is positive 3. The absolute value of negative 5 is positive 5. So what we're going to get for our answer for this expression is positive 8. For number 4, the absolute value of positive 9 is 9. The absolute value of negative 8 is positive 8. We'll add those two numbers together to get 17. Moving on to number 5, same thing. Absolute value of negative 12 is positive 12. The absolute value of positive 15 is positive 15. We'll add those two together to get 27. Number 6 is a little bit different. Notice that you have an expression, a difference inside the absolute value bars. As I mentioned, you'll want to treat those absolute value bars just like you would parentheses. You'll want to do what is inside the absolute value bars first and then take the absolute value. So what we're looking at here is the absolute value of the difference of 21 and 17. 21 minus 17 is 4, and we'll take the absolute value of that number. Absolute value of 4 is 4. Moving on to number 7. The absolute value of negative 11 is 11. The absolute value of negative 5 is 5. 11 minus 5 is 6. Moving on to 8. Notice again you have two separate absolute values. We'll simplify each of those first and then take the difference. So the absolute value of 4 is 4. The absolute value of negative 4 is also 4. And when we subtract 4 minus 4, we'll get 0. Looking at number 9, again, this was like number 6. We have an expression inside the absolute value bars. We must first simplify that expression and then take the absolute value. So inside the absolute value bars, we have 15 minus 23. If you recall your integer addition and subtraction rules, that would give us a -8. The absolute value of -8 is +8. Whatever number is inside that absolute value, once you've simplified it down to one number, you'll have that, the positive value of that number. So number 10. Again, we have two separate expressions. We'll simplify each one first and then subtract them. So the absolute value of 24 is 24. The absolute value of -15 is +15, and we are subtracting them. So 24 minus 15 is 9. Moving on to number 11, the absolute value of 28 is 28. The absolute value of -26 is +26, and we're going to bring down this subtraction. So we'll subtract 28 minus 26 to get 2. Last example, number 12. The absolute value of -3 is +3. The absolute value of 19 is 19, and we'll add those together to get 22. That concludes this portion of the lesson. Please return to Schoology to find the next part of this lesson. Thank you.